Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Vacant Light. Today I'm talking about Gehtika and her second EP, which is called This New World. Gehtika may not be a well-known band at this point in time, but their music is definitely enjoyable, and it's quite notable for a number of reasons. One thing I'd like to mention here before we even talk about the music is that Gehtika achieved something that's very notable and quite rare on this particular EP here. And what that is a very consistent tone and a very distinct image of what this band tries to say and what they try to produce in terms of music. And that's something a lot of bands don't exactly produce, often for 5, 10, 15 years of their music career. So I think that's quite notable and one of the reasons I really wanted to review this particular EP. Now, this is a 7-track affair, and although the introductory and concluding tracks may be a little bit more experimental than the rest of the music, the other tracks in the middle, track 2 through 6, they're very straightforward, enjoyable, and they don't really try to do anything, out of the ordinary in terms of this band's sound. While that may sound like I'm calling this band boring, it's definitely not the case. The band knows what they're good at, and they do it, and that's why I like this album. The underlying tone here is very dark, very groove-oriented, very grind-oriented, and that's really presented here through the bass and through the drumming, both of which are quite well done. They're actually mixed at levels that make them a real influence in the music. They're almost at the forefront of the music for a lot of this release, and that's particularly notable for the bass player. You can even hear some almost bass solos in here, here and there, which really adds to the music. But the bass and drumming tones are very consistent, and they're maybe not as varied as the guitar and the vocal work here, but they do form that dark and very grindy underlying tone, and it works quite well. It makes this album sound aggressive and dark. Now, the guitar work on here is actually fairly varied. You'll get a mixture of, the deep, dark, groove-oriented rhythms, and also you'll get some more higher pitched and more experimental soloing and higher range guitar work. So that's one of the more dynamic aspects of the music, and I found it to be very much enjoyable. Also, I'd like to note that the more experimental guitar parts did not actually detract from the rhythm parts of this music, which is actually quite a key component of it. Now, vocally, this band also does something that's quite interesting, and what they really do is they use clean and dirty vocals in a number of different ways. And although many bands that try similar effects often have very crisp and clean styles of the clean vocals, there's actually still a dirty tone to them here, which is quite interesting. So it's more of a gradient between, dark and deep, dirty sounding, groove oriented vocals, and something that's more in between the very clean aspect of it and the very dirty aspect. So I think that works well. It keeps the music very dynamic, and as a result, they don't really sound like anybody else in terms of their vocal work. So I really like that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the introductory and closing tracks are a little bit more experimental, with the intro sounding more of a experimental guitar composition, and the last track is very acoustic oriented almost, though it did not really detract from the overall tone and sound of this album. I found it to be a welcome addition, and it's very smart for the band to place it at the end of the release here. It keeps it from splitting the album up in a very strange way or anything like that. So all in all, I'd like to say that Gehtika is definitely a band to really enjoy. Although their music may seem straightforward at first, there's a certain level of dynamisy to it that will keep you coming back to listen to it more and more. And they definitely form a very consistent and very memorable tone, and one that you'll definitely associate with this band's image and with their, their name. So when I hear a Gehtika song, I really know it's them and nobody else. That's all I really have to say about this band, but I'm hoping to hear more of their music in the future. And I'd hope to pick up their first EP, which I still have not yet heard. I'm looking forward to doing that at some point. Thanks for watching this video, and have a good one. Support Gehtika.